everyone, I'm Augustine, and welcome to the video. So for today's video, I'm currently working on something that was a project for one of my classes. This project had to be done in the style of a chiaroscuro, and if you don't know what that is, it's a Renaissance painting, specifically in this style. Now I'm probably not going to talk too much during this video, but I'll pop in every now and then just to say a little something about the process. Like for instance, if you're doing figure studies, try and find the shapes that the limbs or the body make on the figure. If you can match those, then you're more likely to get the positioning right. Like how I use that kind of oddly shaped square between the legs. I know it's not perfect, but it gets me closer to my desired goal. Also, I can't tell you just how long I spent doing this. Just the base pose. I redrew it and sketched over it so many times. I think I sat and I did it for a little over 2 hours just to try and get the pose just right. This whole piece, I think, rounded out to almost 12 hours of work, but I don't know. I'll have to look through all the original recordings. To give a little insight on the character that I'm drawing, I was feeling nostalgic, and I was thinking about old OCs that I had. This OC I made back in high school. His name is Darren, and he was one of the OCs that I was most obsessed with when I was younger. Unfortunately, I slowly lost interest in him over time. I think it was mainly because I didn't know where to take his story. I had all these ideas and sketches of him and his family, and I had so many pages written in a Google document, which has been sitting untouched since 2017. I want to get back into drawing some old OCs, but before I do that I want to redesign them a bit. Unfortunately, I don't have any of Darren's old sketches to compare him with to what I'm drawing now, because a lot of my sketchbooks are in a storage unit, and any digital art that I had of him is currently on a computer that is caught in a reboot loop, and we haven't been able to get anything off of it. So RIP to that. Aspects of Darren's design that I decided to change was his clothing and giving him a messed up nose bridge, because when Darren was younger, he used to be a professional fighter. So I wanted him to have a bent nose to show that it had been broken in the past and wasn't set properly. Things I also took out from his design, but only temporarily, since this is a school project, is his horns and tail, because Darren is also a humanoid that can transform into a dragon. He tends to keep them on display to show his strength and status. The reason for this being that in Darren's later years, he ended up overthrowing a kingdom after the royalty treated their people very poorly. He led a posse of armed villagers to storm the castle, and after showing his strength and leadership, they crowned him king, which led him to being called the Dragon King. So he typically has his horns out to take the place of a crown. On occasion, he decorates them with thin gold chains and small jewels, but that's really only for meetings and celebrations. So at this point, I was trying to play around with the idea of using a dragon as the light source, but unfortunately I could not use it as I didn't have time to render the dragon. Since I couldn't put in Darren's horns, I wanted to have a modified version of his dragon form in the painting, since Darren also has a dragon servant. But his dragon servant is a lot smaller than the dragon that I've drawn here. I'm upset that I couldn't use it because I liked the design of this dragon, and by the time I decided to get rid of it, I had already done so much work on it. Maybe I'll come back and add it in at some point, but I don't know, that's something I'll just probably think about. anyone who's curious about why I fill in my line art with gray, it's simply to have a color layer that I can put a clipping layer over and not have to worry about drawing outside the lines. It's a really helpful tool since it gives you a lot less to erase when you're done, and it gives you a boundary as to how far the fill tool can spread its color. with shading ideas for over an hour, my last brain cell finally kicked in, and remembered that the freeform selection tool existed, and that it makes it so much easier to block in shapes and shadows. I shade with a color that isn't completely black, but is instead a super dark shade of brown, because what I'm constantly told is that you should never shade with black unless it's a certain circumstance where it is required to do so. playing around with different layer types to see which one can give me an appealing lighting. I ended up going with Add Glow to make it seem more bright and also give the piece a more vintage and older feel. And here's the finished painting. Although this was tedious, I still had fun with it. I might come back to it soon though, because I feel like there's some parts of the lighting I could fix. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you want, like and subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching!